So I'm going to show you now today how to do a manual brew with the PicoBrew C. So I actually just finished 1 keg worth, and what I like to do is I buy the 5-pound kit. I use Northern Brewer, but you can buy them from anywhere. I find it cheaper. Buy a 5-pound kit and I break it up. And I actually have 3 of these kegs. I only did 3 instead of 4. And so I take that kit, I divide all the measurements by 3, and I'm going to do 1/3 of a batch per PicoBrew. Now that adds up, not to be the full 5 gallons. So I kind of just add a little extra water in there. It makes it up a little bit and gets me about 4.5 gallons. So what I need to do now is I need to measure out from this green bag, okay, 3 pounds, because my kit here came with 9 pounds total, so divide it by 3, the math. So I'm going to use my scale and measure this out, turn it on. What is it? Make sure it's level, and then it's clear, and I'll make my units to be in pounds. Pounds it is, and we're going to add 3 pounds of grains. Now this is an old, I just used this one actually inside out. Let's see. I just used it for my previous brew. I'm halfway through, so this is the second one of the 3, and I'll show you the process for this. So I take this grain bag, and I would slowly just add grains in it from here. And since this recipe I'm doing is a Kolsch, the malt is basically the same. It's the same all the way through the kit stuff they have. So I'm going to put it in here in the grain bag until I get to 3 pounds. So it shouldn't take too long. Just add a couple bits. And while doing that, I purposely, when I got the PicoBrew C, I didn't want to use the Pico Pass. And I wanted to do all grain brewing with some temperature control. And so I've been using this for that, to kind of test it out. So got that from them, and trying to now get this 3 pounds of grains. So I just measure that out in here into this bag. It's a little dusty. Be a little dusty. Or just 1 pound. It's gonna go faster here. I'll give you the pros and cons. I'll be honest, it is more annoying to do a 5-gallon batch with a PicoBrew C, because you have to do the same steps 3 times. Now if you're just not really doing anything all day, it's kind of easy. You just press set and you leave for like an hour while it has the exact temperature that you need. So you don't actually have to sit here and watch the whole time. But if I were to do it again, maybe I get the Zymatic, the bigger one, or just upgrade where I am. Upgrade to just a better all-grain system. Probably do more brew in the bag. But if you're just looking to do 1.3 gallons at a time, or maybe just 2 batches, and you can go buy the grains individually, what you need from the store. And the recipes, they have all the recipes online, so you can tweak them. And actually, I'm tweaking this recipe more for timing purposes, to be honest. But try it out, see what happens. We're almost at 3 pounds. A little more. Oh. We at 3 pounds yet? Yeah, 3 pounds. All right. Perfect. So now I have my 3 pounds here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this up. Now you don't want to close it all like really tight. You make a little knot. It stays there pretty well here. So make a little knot at the top. You want to give some space for it to move around. And you can buy these little grain bags. They have them on the website, but I just bought them at the local brewery store. So now I'm going to put this in here. Now, notice I have the hot step filter that's in here. The hot step filter. And you're going to want to put that in a way where it blocks this part right here. I don't know if you can see that. That part that you don't want the bag getting there. So you want to block that part there. So the hot step filter that comes in your pack goes right there. And then we're going to put the grains in here. So put the grains in. It gets kind of dusty. We put the grains in, and I want to give myself, I like to put this part at the back side so it doesn't get caught in there, but I want to give some room so it can kind of move around some. There. Okay. So now what we're going to do is put 5 liters of water in here. So I'm going to go fill that up using my bucket right here. And they have measurements on the inside, so I'm just going to fill it to the 5-liter mark. And I'm going to use warm water so it goes faster, the heating process. So filling that up. Alright, so I have my 5 liters of water. I'm going to pour that in here. Now they tell you should use distilled water, but I started using distilled water from the beginning, but then I am just using tap water, and then they have, it's something like every 20 brews you need to do a certain clean that kind of cleans out any minerals that would be in your tap water. I just found it being a pain to keep buying distilled water. So I'm going to pour this over the grains here. So 5 liters of water. Alright. I'm going to bring the camera over here so you can see it, but what we also want to do is check the reservoir. I'm going to add about 2 liters of water to there, up top, and that's actually the water that's used to steam heat everything. So actually, before I do that, I'll show you this in a second. I'm going to add 2 liters of water. And again, I use hot water. Makes it easier, goes faster. Alright, so I have 2 liters of water. I'm going to put it in the top part here, the reservoir, make sure that's filled up. And you'll see in a second, they're going to go over the instructions to do everything. I'm just kind of getting ahead of our system. Right. And we actually don't need this really anymore, that keg. When you do a manual brew, it does it all basically in here until the end. So I'm bringing the camera over so you can see. Alright, I got the wide angle on so you can see that here. So what we have is our step filter. And I got the top on. It's a little silicone top. And I'm not too worried. It was a little dirty just from my previous brew. But normally I do clean this out pretty well. But since it was already just brewing, it should be fine. So what we're going to do is follow the instructions up here. It's pretty easy. I'm not doing first rinse. I'm going to go, I'm not under utilities. Let's go back. Scroll down so it says manual brew. And they kind of tell you the whole process here. Connect our hoses. So we have our 2 hoses from our previous brew. And again, normally I clean these out a little bit, but I just brewed beer with it, so it should be fine. So I connect the 2 hoses, the in and out, make sure they're really tight. All right, got that. And these will get hot actually when you're doing it. Next, fill step filter, which we did with our grains, and 5 liters of water, which we did. Next, insert that step filter. So make sure everything's kind of closed up. And what I'm going to do here is put that in. I have an issue. There we go, underneath. Okay, with level. You put it in, you'll see it click. There you go. Now it's in. We're good. Upfill reservoir with distilled water. I use tap water. Works well. And we're going to start manual brew. So now it's going to prime it. Get it heated up. It should go pretty quickly because I was already just brewing. Okay, move this a little closer here. So what we're doing here, you can see the instructions I have for my Kolsch. I'll wait till it's done doing its thing. Okay. So now we're done. So now I'm doing a my Kolsch here, and decided to do my option B. It's just easier for timing wise. So what I want to have is 151 degrees for 60 minutes. Now there's 2 ways to do it. You can set the target temperature of 151. You just scroll up to the temperature you want. And then they set time. And now the whole time, if you set it to 0, it will just bring it up to the temperature and wait for you. But I like to kind of get ahead of the curve, and I want to do 60 minutes according to my recipe. So I set the whole time, and 60 minutes gets you to 1 hour. Set hold time, and we're going to start the step. So now that PicoBrew is going to heat up, you'll see the temperature here. It'll tell you your current temperature and what the target is. So now it's just a waiting game. So I'll pause it, and you'll see after it gets up there. So the manual brew now has started automatically. And you can see the current temperature is around 151. And it alternates through the cycle, and we have 58 minutes of the step. So this step will be done in 58 minutes, and we'll do the next part. So now we play the waiting game, aka do some other projects around the house. All right, so the first 60 minutes finished. The second one, so at 151 degrees. So now I'm gonna do 170 degrees for 10 minutes according to the recipe. So there's the silent alarm, what it sounds like. So you press the button. We want to set my target temperature. We want 170, pretty easy. And we're going to hold time, set hold time. We want to go down to 10 minutes. So 10 minutes it is. And press enter and start. And there we go. Easy as can be. All right, so we finished that brew. Turn off the alarm. We're gonna take the step filter out here, but it's gonna be kind of hot. We'll see if I can fit it right here. I'm gonna put the grains in that. So I'm gonna take this out. It'll be a little hot. Careful. Kind of grab the corners here. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna want to put the grains. Make sure I get this in camera. Move it back a little. I'm recording you. Just making sure. So we're gonna put the grains in this basket. Now, when you take this top off, it's gonna be hot. Steam goes kind of everywhere. So just kind of watch out. I've kind of burned myself a few times. Take that out here. Careful. Ooh. There we go. And I'm gonna put this to the side for it now. Now the fun part. Like I said, this grain thing's gonna be hot. Ooh, it's hot. So kind of put this up for a second. And then I'm trying to get to this thing here. And then put it more next to it. And let some of the liquid just drain out. And I have a strainer here. So some of the liquid's gonna come out there. And here. Let it drain out on its own. Okay. While that's going, I'm gonna put my hops. I've already combined them here. I'm gonna put them in my basket. One of these other nylon things I've used before. I'm just gonna put them right in here. Now normally you would bring it up to this temperature and then do it, but I find it's just kind of easier to put it in there when it's at 170 degrees, and then just time when it gets up to its top temperature of 203, I believe. So I'm gonna toss these in right here so I don't forget it. Keep the edge right here. Okay. All right. So hopefully some of these grains come out. I have done in the past, which actually I'll do now, is me pour some of this liquid in as grain out. I'm gonna save it all. No sense in wasting it. There we go. Alright, so I'm going somewhere else. I kind of just wait a second. Alright, here. And sometimes I actually toss a little water in here, rinse it out, and try to get some more liquid out of it. So, let me get the camera so you can see that here. Hopefully. Rinse that out. I want to put a little rinse over it. Not too much. So the liquid comes out, so bring it over here. Move the camera again so you can see. Look as far enough back. Show you the wide angle, so it should be fine. And then I'm just gonna, so it comes out here, got it. Let's go. Drip the cam. There we go, get most of it out. That's pretty good. Pretty much done here. I'm gonna put the top back on. So put this top back on here. And I'm gonna save these grains. My brother and sister have chickens. So I'm going to bring it to their house so the chickens can eat it. All right, so I put this back in here without the grain basket or the grains. Put it back in. Make sure it snaps. It does. I make sure this cord's on the side here. So I'll bring it over here so you can see it better. And now I let it go for 60 minutes at its boil. Okay. And again, I'm adapting the recipe. So let's go target temperature, highest setting is like 203. So let's do that. Hold time, we'll set that to be 1 hour. And normally you can bring it out for whatever timing you want if you have different things for hops. I'm deciding to do all my hops for this recipe at once beginning for 60 minutes. So set hold time and start. And now the waiting game begins. It's going to heat up, get up to that 203 degrees. Then the timer is going to start for 1 hour. So I'll see you at the end of that. All right, so we just finished now the 60 minutes. So turn off the silent alarm, and now they're going to tell us where to go from here. Done and manual brew. We're going to go through some process. Lots of steam and noise. Take some process, just kind of wait for it to be done. All right, so now it gives us some steps. Disconnect the hoses, and I'm gonna do this fast. Last time it leaked a little. So the hoses you disconnect, and I've already cleaned this out. So I'm gonna disconnect it now. Be careful when doing that. It'd be kind of hot, and something's gonna shoot out. But I'm gonna disconnect it, and I know the in has to go the in, and then out in the out spot, so I'm going to do that now before it prompts me, because last time I started leaking when I did that. Yes, this is it. Yep. Push it tight. Okay, disconnect. So I disconnected them, and now it says connect end to end, out to out, which I just did. So I set up. Press next. And now it's going to drain into here. The little hole here lets the air come out as it's going in. So now we're going to be draining all the liquid out. Yes. This process takes a little bit. Yes, I say. Says happy birthday. And that side says happy birthday as well. That used to be for a stick. I think we lost it. Alright, watch out. Alright, so now it's over. So we're going to basically press pause and then stop. It's basically done draining, so I'm going to stop. And now it's asking me to remove the step filter and I have to clean it. So I'm going to remove it now. It's kind of hot though, so be very careful. And I'm going to bring it over to my sink and hopefully not burn myself. So watch out, Sissy. Can you move out? Why? Because this is pretty hot. Of course. That's why I should wear hot pads or mitts. Do it quickly. 1, 2, 3. Alright. So over on this side you can see I'm going to drain this or clean it out some. It's not super important because the PicoBrew is going to do another like cycle. There's some stuff out of the way I don't need. So it'll be steamy when you take this out, so just kind of be careful about that. Just take your time. There's not really a rush right now. Huh? You can come in, honey. Be careful. Stay your distance. Can you stay it back a little bit? It's really hot. I don't want you getting hurt. So there's a drain hole I like to bring some of the liquid in, but sometimes you just have to commit and go fast like this. There we go. Alright. So this is the hot basket. Most of the hot is in there. I'm going to put this in a bowl. It's going to be hot to do this later. Now I'm just going to put some water in here. Just kind of cool things off. Because everything's just hot. So they're asking you to rinse it out. They say kind of clean it, but it's really just rinsing. Trying to get some of the crusty stuff off of it. Here. I'm doing this to kind of cool the sides down. But it is fairly hot. And I'll do a big clean after this whole thing's done. After I do all 3. So here's that. Just gonna rinse it out. I don't think I need this. I don't need any more right now. So I'll drop that in there. Draining it. Another little rinse. Get most of it off. You'll see I'll do like a cycle. Just kind of get most of the stuff out. Not the other world. Put it back. There, like that. Put the top back on. And now we're going to put it back in to our PicoBrew. So hopefully you can see that here. So I'm going to put it back in. Do a set filter. Next, it will prompt me. It's empty and clean, which I did, rinsed it. I guess you could do a thorough clean, but I think it's fine. Next, put it back in the set filter. And lid, did that. And now it's going to circulate. So the circulation process, watch out to see, as you can see, is going to circulate through, and the beer is just kind of going to be aerated, kind of going back and forth between the keg, or the brew keg, and the step filter. And so it's going to go for a while. I forget the time period, but basically after like 5 minutes, I kind of stop it early. So I'll see you then. Alright, so it's been a couple minutes. I'm going to end it now. I forget how long it goes for, but I'm just going to end it. And then it kind of says it's over. I guess automatically do something. So what I'm going to do is go to utilities here and just do a drain step filter. And it's going to drain the step filter here. Let's get the last bits out here. And pretty much done. And this is basically gonna be it. So I'm getting the last bits out. It's all being transferred into here. And it looks like all of it. So I'll say, I'm down to the second of this. And we're done. Okay. We're done. So now disconnect the hoses. They're gonna be hot, so be careful again. Pull them away from you. So I'm gonna move out a little bit here. They're hot, so I want to get you. This is hot too. Now we're ready for the next batch. So what I'm gonna do is cool this off. So I've been sterilizing this. Put it over top, seal it up, and wait usually 24 hours for it to cool off. I'm gonna put it in my fridge to try to accelerate this whole process. But yeah, that's it. So it's gonna cool off, and then once it's ready, we'll put the yeast in. All right. So the keg is in my keg fridge right now, cooling off. And then when it's all done, we get the temperature right, then we can go put the yeast in. So now it's the next day. You got 3 Pico kegs here. And I'm gonna go put the yeast in now and put it into my fridge. Now what I'm gonna be doing though is normally I take the whole top off and then try to put the yeast in. But I found every single time I do it, the ring that goes around here falls back in or falls out, and I have to retry to seal that and try to minimize contamination. So I cleaned that funnel out, and this top fermenting hole should be large enough that I can put the yeast through there and use the funnel to kind of help me with that for each one. Now I have my yeast. I'm going to roughly estimate a third in each one here. Should be fine. The only thing you have to be careful is when you open this up, since it was warm when I put it in, is it might pop. So I might actually release this valve first and then open it up. All right, so let's go do that now. So I got my Kolsch style yeast here. And let's go. I already sanitized my scissors when I cut it and sanitized the yeast packet. So what we're gonna do is, as I'm going to try to release this air, yep, little good thing. Let's do all of them while we're at it. I'm doing one-handed. And that one was fine. That one. I wonder why this one. I forget which one that one was. Maybe it cooled down faster. I don't know. All right, we close it back up. Each one. All right. So now I'm going to lift off this fermenter here, this part, and I'll show you on one of them. It comes off. I'll put my yeast packet down like this. Hopefully it doesn't fall off. All right. There we go. When it comes off here, you can see that hole should be fine to put some yeast in. Okay? So I'm trying to keep everything roughly sanitary, or the best that I can. Put this in. It doesn't fit fully, so this is gonna be fun. Let's try a smaller one. Well, like this, drops right in. Yeah, yeast is making it in. And actually, watch this. I'm gonna take each one off, like so. There, that was easier. And this one off as so I can roughly get through each one, so I don't run out of yeast when I do this. So yeast packet in, down into that hole. Yeah, okay. Hopefully that's the right hole. Actually, when I realize it, well, it is what it is. Let's see if it works. I realize that's the hole where the tube is, so hopefully it's probably a bad idea. We'll find out. Yeast smells fruity. It's a bad idea about me. Oh, I outsmarted myself. We'll find out how it turns out. So now I just close the top back on. I'm probably gonna give it a decent shake because I think, if I remember correctly, that's where the tube hole is. Well, maybe it's in the other one. Probably not. Okay, so I'm gonna go swirl. Hopefully the yeast gets around in there to destroy that tube hole. Let's hope. Swirl it up. All right, so now we're gonna go to our fridge here. I'm gonna put them in, okay? One by one in the fridge, and I have a thermometer temperature control. And a piece of tape for it. Okay. So, I'm gonna put each one in. I'm running my kegerator. And it kind of stacked a little, but that's what it is. And I know I will have to stack them at some point, so I kind of do a little double thing like this, not too far against the bag. Put one on top in the middle. Alright. Put it like that. Rest on them pretty well. Okay. So, put the thermometer on. I'll tape it to one of them. Let's go to the top one. Actually, I'll do the bottom one. It'll probably be the colder of them. So I tape it, the thermometer to it. Yeah, so I can show you what it looks like. So, let me collapse this a little here so you can see. Okay, so I tape my thermometer temperature control right there. The 3 kegs are stacked in here. I'm gonna turn this on about halfway, but then I have it hooked up, you see, through my thermometer temperature control, and I'm gonna set this to 62 degrees Fahrenheit, so I gotta do some calculations. Be right back. Okay, I need roughly 62 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's about 16.6 degrees Celsius. I'll make it a 17 degrees Celsius, and that's actually what it's set at right there. So let me see if it goes down by, let me go set. Yeah, so go 16.8. There we go. Within a 2 degrees Celsius range, I'll go within a 1, let's go 0.8 degrees Celsius range set. 0.8, hot within that range. It's not gonna be hot, but I said, okay. What did I do? There we go. All right, so we're currently at 24, and we've set to 16.8 degrees Celsius, and there we go. So I'll check on it later, just make sure it's still working and doesn't, kill the yeast. And that's it. Now we wait a couple weeks. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna do a cold crash of the beer. So I'm gonna unhook my regulator for the temperature. It's an even. I'm kind of talking quietly because my daughter's asleep. So I'm gonna unhook the temperature controller right here. So if I can hold this here while I do it, not one-handed. Unplug it. And put it to, if I can hold it here. This thing. So, right there, I've unhooked the temperature controller, and then the fridge is now hooked up. So I'm gonna go inside here, where the temperature controller is. And I'll unhook the thermometer. Don't need that there anymore. And yeah, roughly medium setting right there. So I'm gonna let it be cold for a day or two, probably about a day, and let it cold crash the beer. So that's the process right here. So now it's been about a day and a half of cold crashing. The beer's in there. I'm gonna take it out. We're gonna go rack it into our Corny Keg. So I'm gonna take these out. You gotta be gentle with them. Make sure they don't like hit anything. Any little bump could really disturb the yeast at the bottom of the keg. So I took the kegs out right here, and we're gonna have a little setup. So I have the PicoBrew right here. I'm gonna put the keg on my stool, and then I'm gonna rack it in here. I've sanitized my keg, and the siphoning tube right here is just resting in the sanitizing liquid. So we're gonna turn it on. We wanna rack our beer. It's connected. We're gonna do utilities, rack beer, and then want to flush. So the first thing we want to do is take the gray hose, put it in the waste basket right here. If I can do it one-handed. Put it in the waste basket. And now I'm gonna flush it. And what it's doing now is just making sure there's no liquid left in there, getting that out. And when it's all done, it's basically done now. There's nothing else really coming out here. Flushing that, it's like done. Okay. Yep. So now we're gonna start racking the beer. So now they want us to tell us to remove the fermentation seal. That's this top part. So we're gonna take that off, and it might have a little pop or something. Here, I want to do this first. Get the air out. Got it. All right, seal's off and put it to the side. So I move that, and you just kind of follow the instructions here. Now let's connect the gray hose to keg in position. So the gray hose to the keg in, which is this one right here. And actually, I'm gonna flip it around. I want the keg going the other way for my racking purposes. So I'll put this right here. So the gray hose on the inside, like so. Okay. Let me bring this closer to the edge. Here. Then it tells us, and it says firmly in the in pose. Great. Continue. Now connect racking tube. That's been cleaning here. I kind of dipped it in there. I've rinsed it out a few, like make sure the liquid got inside of it. So now I'm gonna go set that up. And what they're gonna ask me to do is to do a first quick racking of like any tube you see. I've noticed whenever I do this, not much is ever in there, if any, and it just kind of wastes it. So I just let it all go into the keg. So let's go do that. Set up here. Take our tube. Oops, spilled some. Okay. And put it on the hose. Make sure it's lined up. Like so. And I put the racking tube right here. And I kind of make sure it's just touching the edge of the keg. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's just touching the edge. And kind of, it's gonna say here, that's my hand off here. So, luckily the setup should be pretty much fine. I mean, wish the keg was a little lower, but it's all right. Flush, I'm not gonna flush. I'm gonna say it's done. And now insert racking tube into the kegerator. which I have here, or the keg, the Corny Keg. I'll start the transfer. And then you see the beers coming out, and see, like I said, it's already clear. You can barely even tell. So there's not really any trube or anything that's coming out here. So I'm not really worried about that. And so you just kind of let it sit until it's done. There, it takes a couple minutes. And then I'm gonna repeat the process with the other 2 kegs, and we'll see how far it goes, how much beer it is. But you can see inside, the beer's going in, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, there we go. You can see the beer's going in there. And it's just let it do its thing. Pretty easy. You see the keg, it's just filling up. Nice pour, looks good. One thing I've noticed on this tube, it always looks super clear. I'm always wondering, like, do I even have beer in here? But it comes out darker like the beer color should. So, I don't know, it might be just really thin tube. I think it's clean. So you can see there's air now going in the tube, so we're done. There's not much coming out, so I'm gonna say it's done here. And that's it. Let's kind of wait till the last little bits come out. Then we are going to unhook this and do the same process for the other 2. So I'll touch base with you again when I finish these next 2 here to fill up most of this keg. So, see you in a minute. The second keg is underway here. It's going through, filling up. As you see, it's getting higher and higher. But it won't get to the top. It'll be, I think, roughly 4.5 gallons worth. So it's almost 5, but pretty much there. We'll see when we get to the end. I've kind of had a little more liquid this time, so I'm hoping for almost a full 5 gallons. So now this is the last keg going through. I think it's going to be less than I initially thought. Kind of near the top, but you can see by the cold condensation on the outside, I think it's delayed a little. It's probably around here right now. But, yeah, a little less than I thought it was going to be, I think, the last time. We'll see when the final this thing finishes, but it's alright, maybe 4 gallons worth. Okay. So, this little setup's working out pretty well. But if you have a PicoBrew C and you want to do manual brew, you got you covered here. You can still do it. You can still do a good amount. You don't have to do all 5 gallons. You just do one of these at a time. But I like to save costs when brewing beer. Right, so it should be ending soon. Right here. Now it's ending. Last little bit, so let's turn it off. So it's all done. I'll unhook them in a second. I'll hook this one first, the gray hose, just to get it out. Right there, sorry. And then you can see how much beer is left in here. So it's a decent amount. I mean, maybe 4 gallons, so maybe just under 5, so 4 gallons here probably. Maybe a little over 4. That's not gonna be bad, so now I'm gonna undo these hoses, make sure the last little beer gets through. And then we're gonna put on the sealant and put it in the keg. So let me set that up here. All right. So undo this hose connector. Make sure all the beer comes out. Got it. And I can put this in the sink and I'm gonna clean it. Rinse my hands off. All right. And now we're gonna put the top part of the keg in there. Okay. I've been cleaning this part. Let's seal it up. Put the rubber seal on. Then we're going to put that in here. Make sure it's all sealed. And we'll double check when we add the CO2 in a minute. So it's all sealed up. Got it? So come with me and we'll go put it in our keg. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, as you can see, I like to do a double check here. But if I can get some extra light, let's rotate this a little. All right. So I have it off here, and I believe I have this, yeah, store it. So it's all off, the CO2 line. So I make sure I add it to the CO2 line, and I'm actually turning the fridge off right now, so it's not gonna keep trying to run on me while I'm going. So we make sure we wanna put the CO2 on the in spout. Don't wanna put it on the wrong side. So for the CO2 here, click it in pretty easy. Secure. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the CO2 on. So I'm going to turn this CO2 on, and we're going to have to probably crank the pressure up soon, but for right now I'm going to turn the lever, and what I'm listening for here is some hissing. I don't hear any hissing, but if you did, that means the seal wasn't great here, and you have to just redo it and make sure it's right. It's happened only once to me. I need to turn up my CO2 pressure. So ironically, to turn it up is pushing the valve in. But so I could do this to carbonate the beer at a little over 10 PSI to get it going faster. I crank it up. All right. But now what I'm gonna do, once I kind of don't hear any noises, I'm going to turn this valve off for a second to stop sending CO2 in. And I'm going to release the CO2 from here. Turn that valve on. Releases it. And what we want to have is only CO2 in our keg. So there's some oxygen in there. So now I'm doing another one. Usually I do about 2, and then the third one stays. That'll probably be overkill. You probably can just do 1, but it's not too expensive for CO2. So you see it's finished up. Turn it off. Let the CO2 come out. My dog hates this part. So this part's like your normal beer brewing. And then I'm done. So now I'm gonna let the CO2 go in. I might have to crank it up a little bit so it's a little above 10 PSI, but we're fine. So now, what I'm gonna do, oh, whoop, silly me, ready? This is where I made a mistake. I'm gonna turn it off one more time. See, I always forget this step. Undo the CO2. Make sure there's no CO2 in the keg, because I'm gonna tap it here. I mean, you can wait and do it later, but I just do it now to get it over with. So, get my ball valve connector here. You don't want to have it when there's CO2 in it, because then it will shoot out everywhere. There. Connected it in. Now we'll do the final CO2 amount. And I'll even... Nice! My keg was slightly on, so I leaked some out, but at least we know it works, right? All right. So, I'm gonna crank the CO2 up some. I guess always double check your tap handle. Always double check the tap handle. Anyway, so now it goes in the fridge. I'll go, we can lower this some. There, put it in my fridge. I usually put it towards the back so I can use the fridge for other storage stuff. Make sure that the hose is there in the back corner. Give myself a little room here. Turn the fridge back on. And we're done. And so now in a couple days we carbonated and ready to drink. So I'll see you then. So it's been a couple days. Now it's time to test it out. You can come in a little, you can see it. Now we cranked up the CO2, so it's gonna kind of go fast, but it'd be funny. It's all right. Yeah, I crank up the CO2. That's a lot of head, but that's there to get it carbonated. So now I can turn that down. But we can see it's turning into a good kolsch. So I gotta turn down the CO2. Doesn't need to be up to 15 psi anymore. Already carbonated. Down 10. Yeah, all right. But once the head goes away, it kind of happens sometimes when you're trying to carbonate it. Turns into a decent beer. So there you go, a little hazy. Well, it's just unfiltered, so it's got a little haze to it, but there we go. So, all right, might as well get everything all frothy here. There you go. Oh, cheers.